Mo'Bettahs Hawaiian Style Food was founded by Kimo and Kalani Mack in 2008. The first shop was set up in Bountiful, Utah. A little background on Kimo and Kalani. They were city bus drivers in Hawaii before they decided to move to Utah to build a better life for themselves and for their families. And they decided to open up Mo'Bettahs to bring Hawaiian style food to Utah. Some of the values that Mo'Bettahs encompasses and encourages are diversity, self-reflection, enjoyment of life, and integrity. Their mission statement is, "We act in the spirit of Pono," meaning that in every interaction with customers, vendors, and employees, we act in the spirit of integrity. And that's something that's been reflected by the founders, and that's been something that's been encouraged throughout the time that Mo'Bettahs has been opened. As far as how many restaurants there are, a couple years ago, Mo'Bettahs partnered with Savory Restaurant Fund, which is a restaurant managing company, and they helped Mo'Bettahs grow a lot. In 2018, Mo'Bettahs started out with 6 restaurants, and now in 2021 there are 25 operating Mo'Bettahs across the country, and there are 3 that are in the process of being opened. How did Mo'Bettahs become successful? As I said before, Mo'Bettahs was founded in 2008 during the economic crisis, the Great Recession. And so they were trying to figure out how they could market to people, how they could be successful in this economic climate. Something that they decided to do was to get on Facebook, and they joined Facebook groups of returned missionaries of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who served in Hawaii, and they figured it would be a great marketing tool to bring that Hawaiian food that they loved so much back. So they would post on those Facebook pages, and then those returned missionaries would come, they would love it, and then by word of mouth, the word spread about Mo'Bettahs. Here's a little bit about Mo'Bettahs' plans in the future. So as I mentioned before, in 2017, Mo'Bettahs partnered with the Savory Restaurant Fund, a restaurant managing company, and Savory is helping them build a corporate structure. They are the reason they expanded so much and have so many restaurants now on the horizon, which by the end of 2022, they are hoping to add 26 more restaurants to Mo'Bettahs' restaurant chain. And in a couple years, Mo'Bettahs is planning on moving away from Savory Restaurant, which is always the plan. And so Savory is in the process of training them how to build a corporate structure so that Mo'Bettahs can survive on their own. We were able to get the numbers for 2019 as far as growth and revenue, so I'm going to read those off now. These are the most recent numbers that I was able to find. But as far as the 3-year growth, it was up 151%. 2019 revenue was $20.3 million. The corporate structure is in Lehigh, and there are 621 employees as of 2019, so it's probably grown a little bit. So that's a little bit about Mo'Bettahs, the background, the history, and now we can get more into the culture and suggestions that we have for Mo'Bettahs moving forward. Now I'll go over the cultural analysis of Mo'Bettahs and also the competing values framework. And as you can see here, we have the basic structure of a cultural analysis. We have the founders, and then the industry demands, and then that leads to early goals and values and assumptions, and then those go into the ASA process, new employee onboarding, leadership, and reward systems, and then that leads to organizational culture. So, the founders' values and preferences. We already went over a little bit of what the founders' values were, which was diversity, self-reflection, and integrity, among others. But I would also say another one is hard work. As we interviewed Josh Cheatham, who is the recruiter for Mo'Bettahs, we discovered that Kimo and Kalani, they're still hard workers to this day, and they are very involved with the corporate structure, even though they are not necessarily running Mo'Bettahs anymore. They drive trucks of food, or of if they're opening a new restaurant, they'll drive trucks to the place where they need to go, which is just a demonstration of the hard work and the ethic that they have. As far as industry demands go, it's like any typical restaurant. It kind of needs to be different. Give something that isn't necessarily given by any other place. Early values, goals, and assumptions that Mo'Bettahs lived by were that people wanted to get their money's worth for food, and so it was a big goal, a big value of Mo'Bettahs to make sure that customers get what they paid for in food. And so that's why there's big portions at Mo'Bettahs, is because they want to make sure that customers get what they paid for. And the founders probably assumed that people don't feel that way about a lot of other restaurants. And so they want to make sure that they added that, contributed that different idea to their restaurant. As far as attraction, selection, and nutrition goes, they are similar to Mod Pizza in that they attract people who want to learn new skills and also have a second chance at life. They select people who are like willing to work hard and willing to learn and grow. And then the people stay who are willing to work hard. New employee onboarding, it sounds like they don't have too much of a structured way to onboard new employees, but they make sure that like they are trained and they know how to cook the food. As far as leadership goes, the leadership demonstrates a very servant-oriented leadership. According to, again, Josh Cheatham, the recruiter at Mo'Bettahs, the CEO or the president of Mo'Bettahs, he knows almost every employee's name. Like, he will go to a restaurant and he'll know all of the employees' names and call them by name, which is huge with leadership. It shows that like the leader of the company actually cares about them, and that helps with attrition as well. Reward systems, kind of the same as other restaurants. There's not too huge of a corporate structure, so a lot of like the employees are people who work at the restaurant. So reward systems, if you work full-time, you get benefits, and the pay is pretty good, considering it's like a restaurant. So they're paid more than minimum wage for sure. Then that leads to an organizational culture. And the overall thoughts that my group had about the competing values framework and like where they fit in to the competing values framework was very much a clan. They value their employees very much and they want to see them grow. And a lot of the district managers actually started from the bottom. They were working at beginners restaurants in like the Bountiful branch, and they were able to work up because Mo'Bettahs invests in their employees and wants to see them grow and improve. They're also very much a caring structure where, like I mentioned before, servant leadership, like they know your name, they know your background, and that's why it's a clan organization, which I think really works for them, and it fits within the values of the founders. I think the founders prefer it to be that way too.
Some of Mo'Bettahs' strengths are their infectious culture, their focus on employees, and their consistency as a company. First, I'll talk about their infectious culture. They really work hard in their company to keep the aloha spirit alive in their restaurant, especially as they expand. The owners, the original owners of Mo'Bettahs, really go above and beyond and go and actually visit as many locations as they can to kind of instill that in employees and help them feel that the culture and the Hawaiian culture that they want to instill in the experience for their customers. And when the employees show that kind of aloha spirit, then the customers will then in turn feel that feeling. They make sure as a company to find leaders and general managers for each restaurant location that help inspire their employees to have that culture and really embed it into the restaurant. They actually, when they hire a general manager, they fly them out to the main store in Lehigh to be able to experience that that feeling. And so they place such an important emphasis on the culture that they actually like pay to make sure that their leaders like have that as a main focus for the experience for customers. Their focus on employees is another one of their great strengths. They want to make it a good experience for their employees, which usually include, because they're a restaurant, people who need a second chance if they're adults, and a lot of teenagers where this is their first job. They want to have this be a positive, happy experience for them. They focus a lot on just finding good people who are humble and people who are open to wanting to work really hard, but also like have a good time at work. They have monthly evaluations and surveys that go to their employees so that they're able to know what they can do better. Mo'Bettahs also is consistent. They want to keep their culture consistent, especially as they recognize that they have expanded to connect with Savory, who's their parent brand, and they're able to expand to more and more restaurants. They want to keep their culture consistent, and they have trainings about once a month for general managers to be able to keep them used to the culture and continuing to lead in the way that they want them to.
So throughout the course of our interview, we learned that Mo'Bettahs doesn't really have a vision, or if they do, it's not well known among all the employees. So our first suggestion is that they create a vision. Now, a vision outlines the organization's direction and how to accomplish it. The vision should be clear and consistent, and it should be personally relevant to the employees and have the end goal in mind. And a vision is needed to communicate shared values and goals, recognize and promote distinctiveness in the organization, and it provides a template for decision making. And most importantly, a vision is crucial to change. We think that having a vision would help Mo'Bettahs to know where exactly they want to go in the future and how to get there, and also bring all the employees on board with that vision. Having strong culture is something that is important for any organization so they can reach their goals through shared values and experiences. Mo'Bettahs already has a familiar, friendly Hawaiian culture, and that's what people love about it. As it expands, we worry that some of that culture will disappear or will change in ways that are not beneficial to the company. So our second suggestion is that Mo'Bettahs adapts an organized training program specifically for onboarding. Chick-fil-A is a good example of a fast food organization that has a reputation for excellent customer service. And after talking to a couple of people who have worked for Chick-fil-A, we found that the most important part is indeed the trainings. So we have some suggestions of things that Mo'Bettahs could do in these trainings, and that includes elevating the language and being focused on your time at Mo'Bettahs being an experience rather than just going out to eat somewhere real quick. And we suggest that there's one big training for new employees and at the beginning that has kind of what their vision, their mission, what they're hoping to accomplish, and that it's not just a job, but it's really becoming part of a team. And also that they reinforce these trainings through their supervisors and managers, always being aware of things that other employees are doing so that they can compliment them and encourage them, and also so they can give them guidance and support where needed. Now, it is really hard to get every employee to embrace the culture of Mo'Bettahs, especially teenagers or people that this might be their first job and they're not really interested in being invested. So our third suggestion is that Mo'Bettahs is more selective in their hiring process. This is kind of hard right now since it's still a smaller franchise, but as it continues to expand, its reputation will as well, and more people will want to work there, and therefore they can be more selective with who they hire. Something that could help with all three of those suggestions is that there are more corporate employees. So that is our suggestion number 4, that Mo'Bettahs hires more corporate employees before splitting from Savory. This will help the company to have a smoother transition as it becomes more independent.